15 years, I would say Ethereum is not making a crypto adoption bet. It is making a neutral infrastructure bet. What do I mean by this? So in 10, 15 years out, that is still the remit and the goal of Ethereum. In terms of that, yes, we see the future being in, if you're going to use your example, 10, 15 years out, if you look at Justin Drake and what he says, you'll be able to validate the blockchain on a smartwatch. Because it'll be so lightweight, you'll be able to do it so fast as well. And this whole blockchain trilemma, because everyone has previously complained, oh, Ethereum is really slow, Ethereum is really expensive, zero knowledge proofs. Change that, enable Ethereum to scale just as fast as a centralized or decentralized blockchain.
Hello everyone, how are you? I hope everything is going good with you, everything is going well for you, and hopefully you're in a bit more better shape than you were, let's say, last week or last month. A lot happening globally in the geopolitical arena. Trump tariffs still behind, it's still around us. So crypto market structure bill, Clarity Act, Genius Act, a lot of regulations also coming up. So this is the right time. This is the right time to be in crypto, and we hope you and we can actually stay here for a bit more lot longer and see how this plays out. But as usual, today I welcome you to Voice of Web3 podcast powered by CoinGape Media. And today, guys, we have a very special guest for you. We, everybody, we all have been hearing about Ethereum for so long now that it is the right time to actually get somebody from Ethereum who can let us know more about Ethereum Foundation, how it works, and in a general sense, what we as investors and what we as professionals can expect in the coming days. So guys, today we have Jamie Smith with us. Jamie works closely with the Ethereum ecosystem at a strategic level. He engages across core protocol developments, ecosystem coordination, and long-term stewardship of Ethereum as global public infrastructure. At Ethereum Foundation, Jamie's role sits at intersection of technology, governance, and real-world adoption. He increasingly underpins use cases ranging from finance, tokenization to cross-border value transfer. So guys, Jamie is our go-to guy today to know more about Ethereum Foundation. We have some of your questions as well that we will be asking him. But before that, let's welcome him on the stage. Jamie, how are you?
I'm great. Thanks for having me today. It's a lot of the things you said just then as the intro really reminded me of how much context switching a lot of people have to go through as well. So I'm not the only one, which is good to hear.
No, so I mean, the last part is key, that you are today in this podcast, you are our go-to guy to know everything about Ethereum, to know what is coming up, to understand the recent announcements in more depth. So Jamie, I'm going to call you James, as we discussed. And how are you today, sir?
I'm really good, thank you. There's a lot of different factors are impacting the strategies we make at the Ethereum Foundation. To give everyone a bit of a broad sense, I probably have one of the broadest remits looking outward at Ethereum and looking in the ecosystem. And now obviously there's a lot of people under the tent, from enterprises to chocolate factories using blockchain through to privacy cyberpunks through to governments. So there's a huge number of different people, and they're all looking for different things. So, and then you've got things like AI, which are changing a lot of the ways that we approach things as well. So there's a huge volume of things going on at the moment, which is exciting, but also can be overwhelming for a lot of people as well.
So today, Jamie, we will try to look at these developments through your lens, through your eyes. What you see, you can help us understand as well. And I think to start off, one of the questions, we can start in a broader sense today first. And I would like to know that what are some of the key developments, or let's say key projects today you are working that you think in the next 10 to 15 years will play a pivotal role or will play a very key role? I'm asking this because, we have seen Ethereum around for now almost 10 to 12 years now, I guess, and Ethereum has been there for so long now. And I'm sure 10 years back at the ICO time, if somebody was making a bet on Ethereum, it had turned out really well. So what if somebody today is trying to make that bet again, right? So we kind of want to create a very good use case for them. So Jamie, what are you looking forward in 10 to 15 years at Ethereum Foundation?
Okay, 10 to 15 years, I would say Ethereum is not making a crypto adoption bet. It is making a neutral infrastructure bet. What do I mean by this? This is there anybody that comes to Ethereum and wants to use a neutral platform to build on top of? So you've got a lot of walled gardens, you've got a lot of organizations that it costs millions for them to get off of some of their cloud computing services. We offer a different alternative, and I see us being neutral infrastructure. The best example I can give is I spoke to a central bank in Europe and said, you wouldn't build on somebody else's central bank's infrastructure because you're being captured. And they wouldn't build on yours for the same reason. So you need somewhere that's neutral that you can go to. So in 10, 15 years out, that is still the remit and the goal of Ethereum. And we're trying to think in decades for that reason, that it is capture resilient, neutrality, incredibly neutral is the term we use.
So another thing, James, that kind of excites us as well as confuses us, because as I said, most of our audience, most of the people in crypto, their first career experience was crypto only. The tokens, or let's say Ethereum, Solana, these were the projects that they first got introduced to. And when we hear these things, that there is so much of institutional adoption going around, so much of enterprises utilizing Ethereum, so much of development, new use cases coming on blockchain, it's exciting, but it's very hard to understand in a layman terms that what value is it actually adding to. So can you help us understand through your lenses again, that how should we understand this whole institutional adoption? Is there a way to understand this more simply?
I think if you look in some of the banking systems and you talk to people in banks, the example is they've got 20 different systems that they have used duct tape to stick together over the past 20 years. And now there's a new infrastructure that they can adopt and remove all of the bad efficiencies through this as well. In 2026, should payments take 3 to 5 days? Should they cost 6% on average? There's also a whole huge economy play here as well. Looking at the neobanks coming online, there's a staggering 120 million people still unbanked in Latin America. I think 47%, maybe I've got that percentage wrong, of people in sub-Saharan Africa don't have access to a bank account. Now, through a permissionless blockchain, you can open up a wallet, start receiving money from somebody that's abroad, because that's a very common pattern as well. And when you see institutional adoption, you're seeing lots of different ways of opening up new economies, plus also making existing infrastructure plays as well. I'll give you the example of what I think Robinhood is doing. They see a way to use blockchain to sell US stocks in Europe, plus also it's an operational cost saving. So by having a tokenized stock represented and it being on blockchain, they can show the auditors and regulators that everything is working and they're very transparent about it. So it saves them a whole operational cost as well, which is actually really boring, but that's what they're doing.
So, I mean, of course, when we hear about institutional adoption, we see a lot of these developments around DATs. Particularly, we have seen Bitmine accumulating a large, Ethereum in a large way.
Yeah, the meme used to be a picture of Vitalik saying, "All of my wealth is in this man's hands," and now it's Tom Lee, I think.
And he is not very known for, let's say, being right about predictions.
Who is?
So it's either somebody like Vitalik who understands engineering at very depth, or it is somebody like Tom Lee who understands finances very well. So I think we are at a cross section of both these points. So going back to Ethereum, James, we recently saw Vitalik talking a lot about ZK EVMs We see a lot of work and a lot of, let's say, Twitter trend about ZK rollups, these kind of technologies, which in the past have not been that, let's say, use case friendly. But now we are seeing Ethereum actually kind of coming out, and even Vitalik, I guess, a few days back, kind of posted on Twitter, and he said that, sorry, X, we don't want to offend Elon Musk in any way. It X. So we saw Vitalik posting on X recently that maybe the problem of the trilemma, which we call, right, is kind of solved now, and ZK EVMs are at the center of it. Would you like to kind of, add your views to it?
Say that question again, sorry, the last bit.
We recently saw Vitalik posting on Twitter, X,
that the decentralization scalability situation was solved. Yeah. Yeah. So zero knowledge is an incredible technology and innovation, and there's still a big belief that we think someone in the future will win a Nobel Prize for zero knowledge.
Wow.
In terms of that, yes, we see the future being in, if you're going to use your example, 10, 15 years out. If you look at Justin Drake and what he says, you'll be able to validate the blockchain on a smartwatch because it'll be so lightweight. You'll be able to do it so fast as well. And you'll be able to trust the system as well. And I think that's the big change that Vitalik is talking about. And this whole blockchain trilemma, because everyone has previously complained, oh, Ethereum is really slow. Ethereum is really expensive. And this is because from a philosophical design point, we've never traded speed for decentralization. Zero knowledge proofs change that, enable Ethereum to scale just as fast as a centralized or decentralized blockchain, but also remain decentralized. Which is why in the future, people shouldn't be looking at transactions per second as a metric, because in the near future, everyone will be the same. And I ask them, what are you left with if transactions per second and speed is no longer a problem? You're left with, are you on a neutral platform that won't capture you and hold you ransom for more fees in the future? And this is where I think a lot of people get lost, is that Ethereum's value, by not capturing all of that value, is a feature, not a bug.
Okay. It might be a bit difficult for everybody to understand. Can you elaborate it a bit more? Yeah.
Okay, sure. So Ethereum's, a lot of people point that Ethereum doesn't make as much revenue as other chains. And even though they have the largest volume, so they have the largest DeFi volume, has the largest stablecoin volume, has the largest transaction volume, but Ethereum doesn't make as much revenue as a protocol as other chains. And I think that's actually Ethereum's advantage, not a problem.
Okay.
Does that make more sense, or would you like me to explain it again in another way?
I mean, so of course, Ethereum is always kind of being compared with other layer one chains. That's a given. Yep. And when we talk about Ethereum versus other chains, the whole X is kind of, was all about speed. It's all about revenue comparisons. But on an ecosystem level, we do very well. On an adoption level, we know very well that Ethereum is far more ahead. And that's where I was trying to kind of, compare your thoughts, which you just shared, that maybe Ethereum, the metrics that we are using to compare Ethereum with other protocols or layer one chains is not actually right. Maybe it is wrong.
Yeah, because I actually think if Ethereum isn't making all of the revenue, and we want other businesses, people, organizations to build on top of Ethereum and for them to take the revenue, that to me is an advantage as a builder coming onto Ethereum.
So James, so we understand that before 2025, the whole of crypto was all about trading. It was all about investing. It was all about these tokens being created, and so much of hype when it came to 1000x, 100x prices and these kind of buzzwords. But I guess 2025 has been more about clarity on the regulatory side. I'm sure it has allowed more enterprises, more SMEs, more companies, corporations to adopt the blockchain technology. Are there any particular significant developments at Ethereum Foundation that you can share with us in terms of, let's say, institutional adoption with respect to enterprises, with respect to maybe banks, with respect to maybe stable coins or something like that?
So we started an enterprise team in 2025. And previous to this, we had no enterprise team. And when enterprises used to talk to us, we didn't have anything planned or a way to talk back to them. Now we're getting lots of questions around, hey, what privacy can I implement on Ethereum? And we've got lots of answers. We've got some of the world's best privacy experts that can help that conversation. Also, people are able to, Ethereum, they should think of like there's almost an infinite amount of design choice. So they can pick that as well. So with the enterprises, there's a lot building on there. A lot want the ability for the liquidity that Ethereum currently has, and they also want the composability. But when they look at the security they get with Ethereum and its reliability, where it's the only chain that's been up for 10 years plus, they understand that that reliability is worth a lot of value to them. So we have a lot of more conversations with them recently, and there's a lot of businesses building, there's a lot of enterprise building. And this is where 2025 really was quite adoption of enterprises really putting resources into building on chain. They really understood that. I think 2024, there was a lot of tokenization of things, but they just sat there and didn't do much. Now in 2026, I think you'll really start seeing tokenization, but those assets are productive. One project, Morpho, just put uranium on blockchain. And it's the first time you can buy uranium, and it's actually cheaper to buy than in traditional methods. And then you can actually borrow against it on Morpho and you again with USD. And that's actually a productive asset now in doing something where you can actually use that collateral in a different way. So I think you'll start seeing a lot more exotic assets and a lot more different assets. But now blockchain is being used for assets being productive. And that's how you should probably see it. But I can't reveal conversations, but there is a humongous amount of conversations going on. And if people were aware of how many banks and enterprises are building, I think they'd be shocked.
So, of course, we can talk about a bit more about what's happening in the US. In the last 7 to 8 months, US has again shown that they are the boss, I guess, right? The whole market seems to be shifting to US again. Practically in Middle East, in Asia, we are seeing a lot of companies going back to US. They are again kind of shifting their bases to US. And I guess it's all because of the kind of clarity we are seeing through Genius Act, the kind of clarity we are seeing through crypto market structure bills. And we were recently in talks with some of the chief legal officers at Coinbase and Ripple as well. And they told us that if in case we do get the crypto market structure bill passed, then it will mean that the doorways are open now. The doorways are open for stable coins, they're open for exchanges, they're open for DeFi as well. So this is my next question comes here. When we look at the retail adoption, DeFi seems to be kind of lagging behind. Is there any other metrics where we are seeing DeFi right now, let's say, leading in the space? Or is there any silver lining to DeFi at the moment?
If you look at Aave, I think it's the 33rd largest bank in the US right now, if you put it into the same metric. And the fascinating thing is that all of the other banks are under collateralized, whereas Aave is over collateralized. And I think that's a super interesting metric to look at as well. In terms of DeFi adoption, I think that you're getting a lot of the hedge funds, investment managers, all actually very keen to use DeFi, but there's not yet a compliant way of doing it. I know a couple of companies working on this, and that's very interesting. But I think you will start seeing more and more use of DeFi as the regulatory clarity becomes crystal clear. The US also, as you rightly said, is the big boss because they started seeing the power of stablecoins and they've really jumped on it. And they've caught a lot of other countries unaware of how fast they can actually move. That I've seen a lot of projects say, wow, we were moving fast, but now we're struggling to keep up with the regulation acts because they're moving so fast. Which is actually incredible to see a country move that fast when they want something to happen. So I think that's why it's a really exciting time in that area right now.
Yeah. So James, stable coins definitely have become right now. Whole Wall Street is talking about stable coins. They're talking about stable coins being launched by banks, stable coins like Tether, which of course are hosted on Ethereum, no doubt, right? So first of all, Ethereum has proved that, okay, such kind of volume, such kind of transactions can be handled on blockchains. It's a very big use case study if somebody is still, let's say, doubtful about blockchains being scalable, right? But coming back to that question, the kind of infrastructure we are seeing that Tether is now following, right? And we are also seeing some local players as well as coming or building stable coins on top of Ethereum. So I wanted to kind of discuss with you what happens then when, let's say, a private company or a private institution wants to, let's say, launch a stable coin on Ethereum. How does that happen? We understand that Tether didn't start that way. It had to kind of adopt the reserve kind of a philosophy that, okay, now everything is pegged 1:1 with dollars. But what happens when a private company or a private bank or an enterprise today wants to launch a stable coin on Ethereum? Is there a process behind it? Is there I mean, what sort of, let's say, process they have to follow today?
There's no required process. It's a permissionless blockchain. So lots of projects launch without talking to anybody. They can just do it themselves. I see lots of different experiments as well. We've seen lots of algorithmic stable coins. There's a decentralized stable coin, which is actually using a liquid staking token called ETH. It's backed by not US dollars. And there's a lot of different innovation in that space as well. There's also a lot of different innovation in terms of, is the US dollar, is that stable coin freezable? Is it burnable? What's the capture effect of that? How liquid is it? There's a lot of different things that go into that as well. PayPal stablecoin is currently seeing a surge in adoption as well. You're also seeing Revolut's stablecoin is being used more and more as well. And it's because it's efficient in their operations, but they can also get it adopted. And it's another revenue stream a lot of companies are now realizing, which is another big reason that lots of big banks are looking at doing it as well. I think there might be some consolidation in the future. I see a world like in Europe. I think there's now 12 European banks that are all coming together to launch a Euro stablecoin, so that they've realized that through 12 banks, you've got hundreds of millions of customers that can adopt this, and then it goes even further as well.
So there is another, I don't know whether it is a FUD or it is a reality. We have been seeing so much of exchange of Ethereum, Bitcoin, and other prominent cryptocurrencies from retail or exchanges to now prominent institutions. For example, Bitmain buying on one side, while long-term holders actually selling on the other side. So we are seeing that trend where long-term holders are selling these assets on chain, while on the other side, Wall Street players are buying them. So there's a question we got from one of our user. He said, okay, I read this, I understand this, and I see Ethereum Foundation selling Ethereum. What does it mean? Is Ethereum Foundation selling Ethereum to Bitmain? Is Ethereum Foundation selling Ethereum to, let's say, exchanges? So when these kind of, let's say, updates surface on social media or on internet that Ethereum Foundation is selling Ethereum, would you like to help us understand what does it actually mean?
Yeah, absolutely. So there's a bit of a backstory. Ethereum Foundation was created with when the token generation event happened and was given a small allocation of Ethereum. So we have about $1 billion. It relates to about a 7-year runway. We actually started using DeFi, so we got the runway up a little bit by a couple of years. But essentially, we're a non-profit, non-revenue generating organization, and we sell Ethereum to pay for operations, such as salaries, such as expenses, things like this. So the only time we ever sell it is for that reason. We have been doing it OTC, and we have done it to some DATs recently. And that's actually been really positively received because we don't affect the market if it's done OTC. So the only time we do so is for operational purposes, not for we're trying to time the market or anything like that.
Yeah. I mean, thanks for asking this, because this is a very prominent question everybody has been asking.
Interesting. Okay.
And we, in our own capacity, have been trying to sell. See, it's called Ethereum Foundation, so they cannot be selling Ethereum just because of panic or some kind of regulatory reason. They must be selling it out to kind of bear their own cost. So thanks a lot again, James, for clarifying it. James, if I were to understand from your lenses again, what are your top 3 priorities at the moment at Ethereum Foundation?
So I think we're looking at enterprise relations, which we can see as a support and coordination, helping enterprises understand how to build on blockchain. I look at it back to it's 1998, and everyone's like, I need an agency to build a website, and they're currently at this stage with blockchain.
That's so right. That's so right. Yes, yes, yes.
I think in 5 years' time, everyone will be quite comfortable building on a blockchain. They'll understand the questions they need to ask, and it'll be a different story. We're also focusing on developers. Now, that is a super interesting topic we could spend a whole hour on in my mind because of the world of AI coming in. The needs of developers is changing. How a developer actually gets started is changing. I'm actually thinking of moving to domain experts. We should find supply chain management people, payments people. They know the systems inside out, and we can show what blockchain does. And then they can go and build, because the world has changed rather than hey, let's train a bunch of developers and then they find a problem. We should actually get the domain experts to find the problems first. So I'm thinking a lot about that at the moment as well. The other really interesting thing that the Ethereum Foundation was asked for was founder support. So we started the founder success team. And that has been extremely well received by existing founders that are in blockchain and new and upcoming founders. So we can help introduce you to investors. We can help introduce you to technical people that can give you feedback. So there's a lot of different things that we're trying to do to support the ecosystem. Previously, the Ethereum Foundation was known for giving out grants, whereas now we have many different tools at our disposal that we can be there and support people with as well. So the Ethereum Foundation, you can think of as trying to be more present, more in the room with people, and more explaining stuff. If blockchain as a technology can become very overwhelming very quickly, and we're there to support in a welcoming way that anyone can learn and understand it as well. So you should start seeing a lot more digital education coming out from the Ethereum Foundation, which I think is really exciting.
So, James, before I go ahead to next questions, what is the best way for the founders, for the enterprises to reach out to Ethereum Foundation? It is so huge. I know if somebody goes today and tries to, let's say, reach out to you or tries to find the relevant person, it will be a task for them. So what's the easiest way to reach out to you guys in case if I'm an enterprise or I'm a founder?
So on our website, we have lots of different forms depending on who you are. So we're building Ethereum community hubs, and we have people from Taiwan to Hong Kong reaching out via that form that we've started Ethereum community hubs on the back of. This is where founders and investors all can meet in physical spaces. And we've seen that work extremely well so far in the last 6 months we've been doing it. And so there's that way. People contact me via LinkedIn, Twitter, through referrals. So there's a ton of different ways to get hold of us, I think, as well. But there's the main website, and then social media is a great way to just get in touch.
Wow. And we will also try to add the links in the podcast on the YouTube. So guys, you can click there and you can reach out to the team. So James, you mentioned enterprises, you mentioned founders, you mentioned community play. We were actually recently in talks with a particular government, and we were trying to kind of understand their interest in tokenization, right? So you were absolutely right when you said that people can get easily overwhelmed when we talk about blockchain. But we are seeing so much of interest, eagerness from governments as well now. So my next question is, are you working with some governments as well on tokenization or new themes?
So we recently set up a team just focused on governments and I guess you would say NGOs like the UN and things like this as well. And in Bhutan, we just did a decentralized ID. So the identification and verification of Bhutan citizens now lives on Ethereum, which is super interesting. But we're definitely seeing a lot more governments being picked up. Ethereum Foundation is predominantly still a research organization. So even organizations like the IMF come and discuss research papers with us as well. So we're seeing a lot of adoption as well. It's probably just not that visible because of the nature of the work, but there's certainly conversations happening.
No, I was in Bhutan for the New Year.
Oh, really? Okay, cool.
And the level of adoption, I mean, the level of awareness that I saw and the freedom to talk about crypto. So you can talk to taxi drivers about crypto, you can talk at the airport about crypto. And they have kind of done a brilliant job in kind of educating their citizens about crypto. They're very comfortable in talking about topics like Bitcoin mining. They're very interested. in topics like how actually electricity gets converted to, mining power. So Bhutan definitely is coming up amazingly well, and they have done a brilliant job in educating people around there.
That's really good to hear, because we've had Vitalik be there, IO's been there, so we've a lot of the Ethereum Foundation has been there in the last year.
So nextly, I would like to jump on to tokenization, James, with you, and tokenization from both sides. So I guess today, when somebody is trying to tokenize a particular asset, it may be private or public, they do have a choice of a lot of blockchains around them. A lot of blockchains kind of trying to promote themselves as the most suitable partner for these tokenization projects.
Yep.
I would like to understand with you that where does Ethereum has an advantage when it comes to somebody trying to tokenize something somewhere in the world today?
So with a lot of blockchains, I think it's a design choice. And you have to understand that Ethereum is looking at the long term. It's looking at, if you come and build on Ethereum, nobody can take that away from you. Nobody will take that away from you. So it's permissionless in that way. So there's nobody that can block you. There's nobody that can censor you. And that, I think, is really important for people to know. Reliability and uptime is a big thing that comes into people's minds as well. And then, of course, there's liquidity. So Ethereum mainnet is where most of the liquidity and DeFi sits currently. In terms of that, that is where most people choose to launch, because you've got the security and you've got the liquidity, and you've got the two biggest things that people look for. So they can get their assets adopted by a wider audience of people.
So when we say liquidity, and I understand for somebody trying to launch a token today backed by RWA, whether it is a security token, whether it is a utility token, the liquidity part always comes to their mind, that how much of my assets I will be able to, let's say, sell in the market, open market. Now, are there any specific ways or process through which somebody can actually harness this liquidity on Ethereum, or is it just about creating a token and launching on Ethereum?
Well, it depends on who you know, how good your offering is, how good you can distribute it. So there's the same playbook around the world, I guess. In terms of that, there's also, if you can integrate it into certain projects, like, you've got Uniswap, Aave, Morpho, plenty of different, Ondo is a really good one, for example. They've got a lot of tokenized assets on Ethereum. If you can have something attractive in this world, then obviously you can do quite a lot with the liquidity on Ethereum. I think Uniswap with V4 hooks just said that $10 billion has now been transacted by other products building on top of Uniswap in the last 12 months. So that gives you an idea of what builders are really focused on.
So, I mean, decentralized exchanges are definitely coming up as a very scalable choice now versus centralized exchanges. And Hyperliquid, they have done tremendously well. We are seeing more and more decentralized exchanges utilizing Ethereum in the coming days. So do you see this DEX trend kind of helping to kind of navigate this liquidity part as well in the coming days? Because on Hyperliquid, I guess, or such DEXs, you don't need any such, let's say, layer of additional security or additional paperwork to actually list your token or get the initial pool of investors. So you see this decentralized exchange craze going ahead on Ethereum as well?
You usually need to do some, find some market makers that are willing to put the first liquidity tranches in, and they're still in abundance for the right projects that come up. So you certainly need to do some work in terms of getting that. But it is one of the biggest things that founders probably have trouble with, is kickstarting liquidity, and what drives a lot of them to Ethereum, because it's the best opportunity you've got as well.
Yeah. So, I mean, this is definitely one of the key questions we do receive with founders. So they say, okay, we have created a token, we have amazing assets with us, but now what? Shall we go to centralized exchanges, or we just kind of list ourselves on these decentralized exchanges and wait for it? So I guess, I mean, following the same trust building, market building book, and utilizing decentralized exchange instead of centralized exchanges in the long run shall be able to give you that liquidity.
Absolutely, yeah. And I think that that's where the world has changed in terms of what are you launching as a token, because now a lot of people are like, what's the revenue behind this? What is the tokenomics? And a lot of the tokenomics that was created 5 years ago, a lot of people won't touch anymore, because there's new tokenomic ideas that have come up and are being extremely well received. A lot of the regulatory clarity is like, can the token then implement a fee element to it as well? So Uniswap just recently did this, where the token holders can receive part of the fees that Uniswap receives. So there's huge token design changes going on, and I think that that's going to be an exciting part of who gets liquidity in the next few years.
Great, great. So, I mean, James, now we come to our last question. We really thank you sticking to us this far. I mean, you must be seeing that these are very simple questions that I'm asking you, but these are actually execution questions. So when a founder is stuck after building a token, they may build an amazing tech, they may build an amazing product, but now the point where they get stuck is the liquidity part. The point that they stuck is the marketing part and investors, of course, right? So I mean, Ethereum Foundation, I guess, in that sense, in all these three domains, has an definitely clear advantage when it comes to other layer 1 blockchains today. So, James, my last question to you: if I am a founder today building something on blockchain, trying to, let's say, bring an idea on chain, what is your suggestion or what is your advice to me?
Do you user research first? That's like the big one that I think a lot of people lose and don't do. There's a lot more of a trend of your domain experts coming in and understanding problems that they've dealt with for the last 20 years. And I would encourage any domain experts to come and look at issues as well there. In terms of founders, there's a ton of accelerators and incubators. Like in Latin America, you've got Odysseus, and you've got ones in Asia. You've got tons of VCs that are extremely knowledgeable that we have now started interacting with. And I feel like as a founder, networking with these groups or getting into an incubator or an accelerator is an extremely powerful way of accelerating your startup as well.
Thanks, James. It has been a delight talking to you. And
thanks for having me.
You have been patiently answering all our simple and easy questions. I understand. And I understand you are a highly tech guy. So thanks a lot for bearing with us and being patient and answering these questions, because I kind of, assure you, when it comes to somebody trying to build something, when it comes to somebody trying to create relationships, execution part is the bit where they get stuck always. So thanks a lot, Jay.
I've seen a ton of developers with their heads down for 2 years, and then they look up over their computer and they're like, I built this thing, and they haven't talked to anybody about it. They haven't done any work around it. And this is something that the blockchain industry is finally fixing, I feel.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me. Speak to you soon.